third time for the 2016 conference. Basically, you can see some great night skies from Tenerife. And this information, if you're interested in stars and space travel and astrophysics, then this is the place for you to go. The Virgin of Cayman festivity is on the 12th of July at Puerto de la Cruz. It says that the Festival of the Virgin of Cayman, the patron saint of fishermen, is celebrated in many districts in Tenerife. The most famous is held at Puerto de la Cruz, and as I say, it's the 12th of July. There's the Virgin of Kandiah festivity, which is the 14th to 15th of August. It's another patron saint festival, and this is the patron saint of the Canary Islands as a whole. And finally, there's the Holy Christ festivity in La Laguna on the 14th of September. This is the festival to honour the Holy Christ, and it's one of the most worshipped images in Tenerife. There's a number of events during September, and the firework display on the 14th of September, which accompanies the procession of the statue of the Holy Christ. You could go to webtenerife.co.uk to have a look at these festivals to find out more, but as I say, I will be putting the information on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show. Well, now I've made a right mess of pronouncing Spanish place names and names. Let's get on with British Virgin Islands. These have got to be one of the prettiest group of islands I've ever been to. It's just like the Lake District with all these bumps and stuff coming out of the sea, except the lakes are huge because it's the ocean. And I remember sitting on the beach at the second hotel we stayed at, looking across the strait to another of the islands that make up the chain. And there's hardly any development on the other island, just a few lights you can see. And you can think this view probably hasn't changed for hundreds of years. And you can imagine pirate ships sailing past you as you're looking across the strait. Outstanding. If you go to the bar at the top of a hill on the main island, you can see other islands as well. There's such a great view. It's just a shame the bar's not the best in the world, but the view's great. But if you've got the view, I guess everything else doesn't really matter. But anyway, I spoke to Ginny and from the British Virgin Islands, and we spoke over the phone. So the call's a little bit scratchy. I've done the best I can to keep the noise and interference down to a minimum. Do bear with it, because these have got to be a place you've got to go and visit. There's no direct flights, but you've got to get there. But anyway, let's find out more about the Virgin Islands. More about the British Virgin Islands, not the United States Virgin Islands. No, not them. The British Virgin Islands. What's it like compared to the other Caribbean islands?
I think that the difference is that we're made up, instead of being one island, we're made up of 60 islands. Very small though, and most of them uninhabited. And while that makes it sound like a massive destination, actually it isn't. It takes 2 hours to go from one end of the destination to the other through all the islands. Mm-hmm. So that would be your longest sail, if you like, through them. Very unspoilt. We have no franchises. We don't have people trying to braid your hair or, sell you their market wares.
Yep.
We have very little crime because we have no unemployment.
Oh, how do you do that?
Because we have more tourism jobs than we actually have BV Islanders, we have to bring people in on work permits into the British Virgin Islands.
Okay.
They come in on a bond, which is paid to immigration, and if they were to mess about at all, that bond would be used to send them back out. As when you don't have unemployment and people aren't hungry and we don't have poverty, you don't get crime. And when people don't feel threatened for their life or worried about feeding their families,
I have been
it's an easier way to live,
I did spend a week there, and it is very laid back, and it was very nice. It kind of reminded me, I know it sounds sad, it reminded me of the Lake District, except that the lakes were a lot bigger, because you had so many sort of hills coming out of the sea.
Except for Anegada, which is totally flat. Did you go to Anegada?
I didn't know.
Okay, Anegada is a 16-mile coral island, and it's completely flat, and it's just basically beaches all the way around, and nothing to do there except relax and snorkel, basically, and eat lobster. Okay. That's totally different to the rest of the islands.
I'll have to do that one next time.
Yes.
You're known as Nature's Little Secrets. Why is that?
Because we are a little bit less well known. There's no direct flights into us, and we we do think that we're a treasure and that we're a gem because we are so unspoiled, and it's like the old Caribbean. But actually, it's my job to make it less of a secret. So hopefully, we will become less of one over the next couple of years.
Yep.
Just that many people don't, other than they've heard about Necker Island being in the British Virgin Islands, a lot of people haven't really travelled that far or got to know us yet.
You mentioned there's no direct flights. How do you get there?
So you fly from London from Gatwick to Antigua, and then from Antigua you either take a Liat flight in to Tortola, and then from Tortola to get out to all the hotels. Unless you're actually staying on Tortola, you would take a boat. All the hotels have their own boats that pick up the guests and take them back to the hotels.
Yeah, that's what happened when we went to Virgin Gorda.
Where were you staying on Virgin Gorda?
Byres Creek.
Byres Creek, yeah, lovely.
It's my favourite hotel in the whole world.
I used to be the director of sales and marketing there, actually.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
great place.
And you left it? I don't understand.
I now have the best of both worlds.
We know how to get there, and Antigua's roughly 8 to 9 hours, isn't it?
Yes.
2 hours to get around.
Yes.
But when the pirates were around, is it true that it was really a pirate hideaway a couple of 100 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. And all of the islands have got different stories about like pirate stories and why they got their names and that sort of thing.
So it wasn't a friendly place a couple of 100 years ago, then it was a little bit keep away?
I'm sure that some people were friendly. I'm not sure that the pirates were, but the indigenous people were.
Oh, right. So there is indigenous people there, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, absolutely. With the Arawaks and the Caribs.
Oh, okay.
Were the first people that lived there.
The weather there, what's it like?
Lovely pretty much all the year round. Because the islands are really small, there's always a breeze.
Yep.
So while the weather is up in the 80s, as opposed to being on one big island where once you get sort of central on the island, it gets really hot. Because we're small, and as you've seen for yourself, we're like mountainous islands.
Yep.
There's always the trade winds. So it's always really breezy, except for sort of probably late August, September, October, which is sort of when we have the least tourists coming in anyway, because for the Caribbean, obviously, that's the height of like hurricane season.
Yeah.
And actually for us, that's a time when a lot of the hotels close, and then they'll refurbish for the new season. And a lot of the people who are with us on work permits will at that point take their vacation from work and go home and see their families from the islands that they come from, whether, Guyana, St. Lucia, Dominican Republic, wherever.
Yeah, I remember Byres Creek was closing down not long after we...
Byres Creek closes every year and refurbishes because, the rooms are on that Atlantic side, so they get a bit of a pounding. So the thing about sea air, while it's lovely to breathe it in, it corrodes everything and, can be really tough on you. So all the hotels need to do refurbishment constantly, actually, throughout the year on that stuff. But then in the summer, they tend to do like a really big refurbishment and, redo all the linens and things.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, I'm checking in for my flight.
Lovely. Business or pleasure?
Holiday.
And where will you be staying?
With my parents, they live over there.
Lovely. Travel insurance?
Oh, no thanks.
Have you got travel insurance?
No.
Checked to see if you need any vaccinations?
No.
Checked out the local laws?
No, look. Why do I need to know all this? I'm just staying with my parents.
Is either of your parents A local lawyer, or the chief of police, B, fabulously wealthy, C, the owner of a private plane with its own fully trained medical staff, or D, none of the above?
D?
Lovely. Are you a superhero and in fact immortal?
Things can go wrong on holiday abroad, even if you're staying with family. So check it out before you check in. Find out more at gov.uk/knowbeforeyougo.
Checking it out before you check in on the John Guinn Travel Show on ukhealthradio.com. It's a tax avoidance special, no tax advice, just talking about the destinations which feature regularly when there's a tax avoidance offshore story in the news. The Panama Papers are big news at the time of recording, and the Cayman Islands and the BVI are getting quite a mention about tax avoidance. But there's more to them than companies setting up to avoid paying money. There are wonderful places to visit too. Earlier in the show we covered the Cayman Islands. And I do like it there. I've been there twice. It's a great place. And you can get there direct from, as I mentioned earlier, you get there direct from Heathrow. And at the moment I'm talking to Ginny about British Virgin Islands. A little bit more complicated to get to than the Cayman Islands. You do need to get a connecting flight So when I went over, we went from Gatwick to Antigua. It was a last-minute booking, so the connection times weren't great. We had a 6-hour wait for our next flight. It was late. Liat, 5 flights in 1 year, 5 late flights. And so when we finally got to the British Virgin Islands, it was really late. We were very tired. And it was really weird as well, because we got met at the airport by this guy in a minibus. We all got on board. We drove basically from... It's like being at one end of a supermarket car park to the other. We really could have walked it to this little bit of water, and there's a man with a boat, and we didn't know. Everything got out of the minibus onto the boat, and then we sailed. Well, didn't sail. We went along to Virgin Gorda to our first hotel, the stay, which I already mentioned, Bias Creek. And it was all dark, and you can just about see the various islands you're going along. It was great. But anyway, British Virgin Islands is more complicated to get to than the Cayman Islands, in so much you need this connecting flight. You can go via America if you wish to get better connections, but then you have to do the American ESTAs or ESTAs and go through American immigration. So you're best off not doing that. But anyway, I'm waffling. I'm going to have to stop waffling. We're now going to talk about hurricane season and whether or not it affects the British Virgin Islands.
You mentioned the hurricane season. Do you ever get hit regularly?
I mean, all the Caribbean's got hurricanes coming through. Mostly they just they go out into the Atlantic or become tropical storms. I lived out there for 15 years, and I think there were only 3 in the whole time I was there, so they are rare.
So that's good.
And if there are anyway, any guests in the hotels and things, you track them coming across the Atlantic, and you get people out.
Yep. I had somebody from the Hurricane Center in Miami on my show a couple of weeks ago and explaining it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can track them from a long way off.
What's the official language there?
English.
English. That's handy.
Yeah, and the money is American.
Oh, so it's
US dollar.
US dollars. Any particular reason for the US dollars, or is it just easier?
We're just so close to America.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to have a pound. Although most of the Caribbean, has Eastern Caribbean currency.
Yeah.
But that's actually another reason that people want to come and work in the British Virgin Islands, like from the other islands, because US dollar is worth about 8 times more than Eastern Caribbean currency.
Okay. So take dollars. Is there any compulsory vaccinations to take when you go over?
No.
None at all?
None. We haven't got anything horrible.
Oh, good. What about entry requirements for a UK passport holder?
No.
No, just pitch up.
Just turn up, yep. You do need to have 6 months in your passport, though, when you're travelling to the Caribbean.
Okay, 6 months.
Mm.
And if you want to get married?
Very easy. Either through any of the hotels, they all have their own wedding coordinators.
Yep.
That will sort out weddings for you, and you just need to live there for 24 hours. If you've been married before or anything like that, you need to have, or if you've been married and lost a partner, you need to have like the death certificate or your decree absolute. Other than that, you just rock up with your passports and pay a fee of less than a couple of $100 for the whole thing, and can be married 24 hours later.
It's pretty quick then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure people stay longer than that, though.
Well, people tend to get married at the beginning, and then they stay on and have their honeymoon as their holiday. And they can either come and bring their families with them and their friends, or they can just, easily find witnesses in the hotels. And if people aren't staying in the hotels, if they're on a boat, or if they're just independently self-catering, then at the tourist board, then we can help them with finding a wedding coordinator on island to help them with all the paperwork.
So if they want to do it themselves, they just contact you and it's all sorted.
If they can contact us for anything, we can help them with anything. That's what we're here for.
So I guess it's not all luxury hotels then. There is a mix of accommodation.
No, and it's actually, sort of historically people think of the British Virgin Islands as being really expensive and exclusive. And actually the truth is that we're exclusive, but actually there's lots of properties as well that aren't that expensive. And we have a selection of properties which we call the jewels, which are local inns and villas and small hotels, all locally owned and very inexpensive, and you can stay there for as little as £70 a night.
That's pretty cheap. A lot cheaper than Barras Creek.
Yes, that's true.
What are the beaches like there?
Beautiful. They are all white sand beaches, and hardly ever